Carl Sandburg wrote a wonderfully earthy poem for Christmas called Star Silver. The silver of one star plays cross lights against pine green. And the play of this silver crosswise against the green is an old story, thousands of years. And sheep raisers on the hills by night, watching the woolly four-footed ramblers, watching a single silver star. Why does the story never wear out? And a baby slung in a feed box, back in a barn in a Bethlehem slum, a baby's first cry mixing with the crunch of a mule's teeth on Bethlehem Christmas corn. Baby fists softer than snowflakes of Norway. The vagabond mother of Christ and the vagabond men of wisdom, all in a barn on a winter night, and a baby there in swaddling clothes on hay. Why does the story never wear out? The sheen of it all is a star silver and a pine green for the heart of a child asking a story. The red and hungry, red and hankering heart calling for cross lights of silver and green.
Why does the story never wear out? I think it's because we never stop needing it. Christmas is a celebration of good news.
It's the message of good news.
But not everything in our world is magically better just because it's Christmas. There are still struggles and war and illness and pain and disaster and injustice and unanswered questions. Those continue unabated on this day.
It's still right there in the original Christmas story. Just read the second half of Matthew 2. The flight into Egypt, Mary and Joseph and the babe as refugees, the slaughter of innocent children. Herod existed then, and Herod exists now.
And still.
And still.
The story doesn't wear out. And like the prophets of old, like the Magi, like Anna and Simeon, we continue to look toward a future that embodies the good news of Christmas in all its fullness. We continue to wait for God's promises ultimately to be fulfilled.
But future is a funny word. In Latin, there are two different words for future.
One is, not surprisingly, futurus, right? And that speaks of a future that's constructed out of the past and extrapolated from the present. Futurist speaks toward a future that inevitably leans toward a continuation of what we have now without alternative possibilities.
Futurist looks a lot like now, only shinier if one is an optimist, or grittier if one is a pessimist.
Maybe it's the Jetsons, right? Maybe it's Futurama.
maybe it's Soylent Green.
Right? There's still rich and poor. There's still war and agony. There's still injustice and oppression.
But maybe I finally get my jetpack that I've been promised all my life.
The other Latin word for future is adventus. Adventus, the word that we use for Advent.
Unlike futurus, adventus is a future that insists on the arrival of the truly new. Something beyond all current calculations, breaking in or breaking through. Now, there's secular adventurus, adventus, which is hoping for the next new thing, the next steam power, the next electricity, the next transistor, the next quantum physics, the next new thing that makes everything that came before obsolete.
Fusion. Maybe.
Fusion. There we go. We've been waiting for that forever, too. You're right.
And so for people of faith, Adventus is inviting us to wait in pregnant hope for something that breaks through, that's new, that's different, that doesn't come from what's been before in the world. Some way that God's justice and mercy are made manifest. We don't wait for a shiny new technology. We're waiting for a new way to be human, a way that's truly in harmony with creation and with each other.
The Christmas story, as the poet asks, never wears out, because we are Adventus people. We wait and watch for the realm of God to be made real.
And we don't wait passively. It's not just sitting around and waiting for God to show up. We wait actively. We intentionally unclench our hands and open our hearts to let God shine through us.
The Christmas story never wears out because it gives us hope. It gives us the hope we need to be Adventus people.
We found a quote from Philip Yancey this week where he said, "As I read the birth stories of Jesus, I can't help but conclude that though the world may be tilted toward the rich and the powerful, God is tilted toward the underdog. Or as I often say, all of God's causes are lost causes."
That is the peaceable kingdom that Isaiah proclaims, and that Jesus lived, and that the church, at its best, has been demonstrating.
So we want to share with you this morning a quote from Diana Butler Bass.
An extended quote.
An extended quote. She says, "God's people wait, not passively, but with courageous certainty that God keeps God's promises. It takes active faith to trust in the fullness of this salvation. As the prophets make clear in other texts, that spiritual trust is Israel's social covenant to care for widows, to give to the poor, to feed the hungry, to provide hospitality to strangers. The ultimate promise may be far off, but the faithful can act on its behalf here and now with vision and promise and action."
She continues, "Maybe if we are tired of waiting, it is because we don't really understand waiting. Waiting isn't about looking for miracles to fall from the sky. It isn't about magic fixes. Waiting entails acting. Waiting beckons us to jubilation. Waiting isn't quiescence. In the biblical tradition, it means looking clearly into the broken world and caring for what is wounded. It means facing down the powers of injustice with drum and dance. It means living the promises that God's people trust with all their hearts.
Diana's last line is, waiting is one of the most creative things we can do. Let's say that again. Waiting is one of the most creative things that we can do. And so on this Christmas, we celebrate the coming of Christ because it's the beginning of our Adventus hope, even at the end of this Advent season. We receive Jesus' birth into our hearts, and we do all we can to mirror him in the world around us.
We wait in hope, and we act as though God's kingdom is already here, because in us it is. A now and future kingdom breaking in, breaking through, a mustard seed there, a lily here, a sower up on the hill. A kingdom lived imperfectly, surely, but God is pretty good at working within our limitations.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a really good thing.
Waiting is the most creative thing that we can do. It's the most God-inspired thing we can do, this faithful waiting. It marks us in the world as holy people, as God's people, in a world that is red and hungry, red and hankering for life and love and grace.
In the mangers of this world, in the manger of your heart, a baby is born with fists softer than snowflakes of Norway, and a cross light of silver and green. In this incarnation is the fragile saving of the world.
In this manger, in the cross that we know is coming, in the resurrection after that cross, we wait and act and hope and pray and know the good news that God loves us, each of us, enough to come and be born, to come and become one of us, bringing us a life that never wears out. Merry Christmas, my friends.